All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, glory to YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, Amerca. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. And salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the globe. And the elect begins with the 144,000. YAHAWAH, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jehovah. Bahashem is in the name. YAHAWASHI, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. The Rakakwa doctrine is the Holy Spirit. I'm the brother Iwalamia with the Jam at Chicago branch out here in Chicago. Come back at you with another lesson. And Lord willing, I hope this lesson be edifying to the hopeful righteous elect. Hopefully this be edifying. This is going to be Esau's murderous history, number 15. And this is going to be a three-part, Lord willing, this is going to be a three-part lesson. On the book, Who Brought the Slaves to America. I'm only on the first 8 pages. I was gifted this book by the Elder Malcolm, out here in GMS Chicago. I had Elder Apostle, Elder Malcolm. He gifted me this book, and, I just read the first 8 pages. And this reveals a lot, going into, Amalek back in these slave ships, how Amalek, who we know, it's the small, as we call the small hats, the Ish people, they basically they basically had their names behind these different slave ships that basically, enslaved Jake, to bring them from the west coast of Africa to over here in the Americas. These small hats was the big, a big part of that, making money off Jake. Send Jake like I said, getting Jake from the west coast of Africa to bring him over here to America to make big money off of him. It started with these small hats, man. In the first 8 pages, as I read, it goes into a lot of details on that. Amalek played a huge part in the transatlantic slave trade and the enslavement of the so-called Negroes. Even within the I believe it's like either page 2, 3, or 4, it even goes, how they was basically selling things, I believe it was rum, to the Native Americans, Gad and Reuben. But I'm gonna just jump straight into it. Before I jump into the precepts, I just want to read a couple of passages out the Who Brought the Slaves to America. And we know it started with Amalek. So I'm gonna read this. This is on page 8, actually. I'm gonna start at page 7. This is page 7. I'm gonna start at the 3rd paragraph. It says, I'm gonna just close in a little bit. It says, it has been calculated that for each Negro, actually, I might start at the top. Yeah, I'm going to start right here. It says, it has been calculated that for each Negro who withstood the rigors of this wandering, it says there still had to be the long voyage across the ocean before they reach American soil. Because like I mentioned before, it was the small hats who we call the Ish people, Amalek, avoid getting this lesson taken down. I had to talk into code like that, but Amalek, the small hats, the Ish people we know to be today over there in the land of Israel, those imposters, they basically they were the the first ones, to basically to make slavery a big business, bringing us over here to the Americas. But I want to start out right. I'm gonna start right back at the top. It says it has been calculated that for each Negro who withstood the rigors of this wandering, there still had to be a long voyage across the ocean before they reach American soil. 9 out of 10 died. Right, so out of 9, out of 10, so-called black people, which we know to be Israelites, that came over here, via the cargo slave ship, 1 out of those 10 would survive, and the rest of the 9 would die. That's how it basically shows you how, the conditions were on these different slave ships. And talking about the slave ships, you had a slave ship. If you read the book, you'll understand. I believe it's pages 3 or 4. It was a slave ship called the King David, and that's very fucking blasphemous, man. And we know King David, to be a so-called black man, but these Amalekites, these small hats, doing different things like that, which is fucking mockery, man. It says 9 out of 10 died, and when one considers that there was a yearly exodus of 1 million black slaves, so-called black slaves, then and only then can one assess the tremendous and extensive exodus of the so-called African people, and we know those so-called African people to be Israelites, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. It says at present Africa, as which we know to be what? Biblically what? The land of Ham. It says it's thinly populated, not alone due to the 1 million literally dragged out of huts, but due to the 5 to 9 million who never reached their destination. Because what Jake will do, which I think is actually finna explain it, what Jake will do is this to, escape slavery, they will basically jump overboard, to not be enslaved by the so-called white man, these Amalekites. Because like I said, Amalek was the start, of the transatlantic slave trade, basically what, making this big business, selling our people into slavery, putting our people in the auction blocks. Amalek basically had their names behind these different slave ships we know today. It says, dragged out of huts, and that's another lesson for another day also. Our people that was on the west coast of Africa, they were living luxuriously, they had, our people, it was a place, in the west coast of Africa called Negro land. That's another lesson for another day, but our people wasn't living in huts when the so-called white man picked us up, from the west coast of Africa. It says, once they reached the coast, the so-called black slaves were driven together and restraints were applied to hold them until the next transport ship docked. The agent, many of them Jews, so-called Jews, who represented the chief, then began to deal with the captain. Each Negro was personally presented to him, but the captains had learned to become suspicious. The black one must move his fingers, arms, legs, and his entire body to ensure that there were not any fractures. Because, like I said, these conditions on these slave ships were horrific. Because, on these slave ships, just to give you an example, you can see in a lot of these slave movies, when Jake didn't want to eat, what the so-called white man to do is he will break the slave's teeth out and put I believe it was a funnel down their throat to make them, to force feed them, like I said, the conditions was bad. Jake was packed up like sardines on these slave ships. It says, even the teeth were examined. If a tooth was lacking, it lowered the price. Most of the so-called Jew agents knew how to treat sick so-called Negroes with chemicals in order to sell them as sound. Each Negro was valued at about 100 gallons of rum, 100 pounds of gunpowder, or in cash between $18 to $20. The notations of a captain informed us that on September 5th, 1763, one Negro brought as much as 200 gallons of rum due to the biting among the agents, raising the price. It says women under 25 years, pregnant or not, resulting in the same measure. If they were well and comely, any over 25 years lost 25%. And here it should be stated that those Negroes purchased free at the so-called African coast for $20 to $40 were then resold by the same slave dealers in America for $2,000. Right. And this is what was going on, man. Like I said, it's all started with Amalek. But I'm going to go back to that passage. Let's get a precept. This is the book of Psalms 83:1. It says, a song or a psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Right? All these heathen nations hate us, man. Starting with the so-called white man. It says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Right, crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Who are the hidden ones? You Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They consulted against us. And it all started with Amalek putting their names behind these slave ships, man. Like I mentioned before, if you read, I believe it's in pages either 2, 3, or 4, it talks about, a slave ship named King David, basically, importing Jake from the west coast of Africa, to the Americas, the transatlantic slave trade, what we know to be the transatlantic slave trade, It says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. And that's what happened, man. They beat our heritage out of us. We weren't calling, after so long, we weren't calling ourselves, I'm a Judite from the tribe, Slakia. I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Judah. I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. We started calling ourselves what? Later on, what? African American. As as you see Jake now, man, they calling themselves African American, black, things of that nature, man. Even Jeremiah 17:4 tells you that, we shall discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee. It says, verse 4 says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Right. And that's ultimately what happened, man. We couldn't read, we couldn't write, but let alone read, If they found us reading, we would be put to death, and that's a recorded history, man. Especially the Bible. Because what, if we happen to read the Bible, it will give us, the notion of who we are, But it says, verse 5, it says, for they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom. Right, the first name mentioned, the tabernacles of Edom, and it started with Amalek. The Ish people, the ones that's in our land right now, man. The Ish people, the small hats over there in the land of Israel today. The tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, right? So you had these, later on, you had what? These Arabs, these Africans, you had the Chinese, the Japanese, And like I said, if you read this book, you will understand that it started with Amalek, how they had their names back in these different slave ships, man. To basically what? To go get Jake from the west coast of Africa, And it goes even further today, how ultimately, these Ish people don't care nothing but they care nothing but what only about themselves, man. But let's get another one. This is the book of Psalms 59:1. It says, to the chief musician Altashith Mishtam of David, when Saul sent and they watched the house to kill him, deliver me from my enemies, O my power, defend me from them that rise up against me. And right, who rise up against us today, man? Starting with these Edomites, the simple plain white man, starting with Amalek. Because what? Amalek, they control everything. The government, they control the media, they control everything. That's how they got rich. Off of Jake's enslavement, man. Verse 2, it says, deliver me from the workers of iniquity and save me from the bloody men. Who are the bloody men, man? These Edomites, Well, because they was blessed with the sword, man. Because, yeah, I believe it was Alexander. They say he couldn't put a sword down, man. When he was spilling so much blood, man. How everybody was quiet before him. Just to name an example, these are the bloody men, man. These Edomites. As I read back in that passage, man, 9 out of 10 died on the voyage from the west coast of Africa to the Americas, man. 9 out of 10 Israelites died, man. Of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi coming over here to this side of the world. Let's continue. Let's go back. Let's read another passage. Oh, Salakia. Let me see where I'm going to start. Yep, I'm going to start at the 4th passage down. It says, on board the ship, the Negroes were separated into 3 groups. The men were placed in one part of the ship, the woman into another. It says, whereby the lusty captain arranged it. It says, I'll probably start up. Yeah, I'm going to start up. Start at the 2nd passage. It says, the next step was to shave the hair from the head of the acquired slaves. Lord willing, they can see it. It says, then they were bound and branded with a hot iron, either on the back or the hip, identifying them with their owners. Now the Negro slaves, the so-called Negro slaves, were indeed the property of the Jewish purchaser. If he fled, he could be identified Following this procedure, there was a farewell celebration. There were instances where entire families were brought out of the interior to the coast and then separated through the buyer. It says the father going with one ship, the sons and daughters into another. These farewell celebrations were usually packed with emotion, tears, drama, and sadness. There was a little joy, if ever. Right, this goes back to the curses, man, which I'm going to actually bring out. You know, the son going to one plantation, the father going to another plantation. The wife, you know, again, ravished, you know, by the slave over there and going to another plantation. The daughter going to one plantation. The whole family structure was split up, man. You know, and this even goes on today. You have things like what? DCFS, children being in foster homes, you know, and never went anywhere, just upgraded, you know. You know, this system that, you know, like I said, Amalek controls everything. These ish people, these small hats, they control everything, man. And our people is still, you know, trapped in that same, it's a modernized system now. Our people are stuck in that now. It says, the following day, the transport began from the land to ship. It was managed by taking 4 to 6 Negroes at one time and rowboats to the ship. Of course, the slave dealers were aware of how the Negro loved his homeland above all else and could only be induced by great force to leave it. So some of the Negroes would manage to free themselves on the short trip to the ship, and they would leap into the water. But there, the overseers were prepared with sharp dogs and retrieved the fleeing men. Other Negroes preferred drowning. What came aboard alive was immediately undressed. Here was another opportunity to jump overboard and reach land and freedom. But the slave dealers were pitiless and ruthless. They were merely concerned to get their black cargo to America with the least loss. Therefore, an escape recaptured had both his legs cut off before the eyes and Salakia of the remaining Negroes in order to restore order. It says on board the ship, the Negroes were separated into 3 groups. It says the men were placed in one part of the ship, the women into another, whereby the lusty captain arranged it so that the youngest, most comely so-called Negro women were accessible to him. Right, and this is what Esau would do, man. He would ravish the women, you know, the young women, you know, and things of that nature, man. Yeah, Esau has a lot to pay for. It says the children remained on deck, covered with a cloth in bad weather. In this fashion, the slave ship processed on its journey to America, and the ships were too small and not at all suitable to transport people. They were barely equipped to transport animals, which the Negroes were likened to, in one space, 1 meter high, 39 inches, right? So our people was packed in those slave ships like sardines, man. You know, a lot of our people, you know, just, you know, pardon my French, will shit on each other, man. You know, will vomit on each other because what? They were so impact, you know, within those slave ships, man, like sardines, that when the Jake gets sick, you know, it's very grotesque, man, because the conditions of that slave ship that our people were put in, you know, and that's what, you know, and resulted in a lot of deaths also, which the Negroes were likened to in one space, 1 meter high, 39 inches. These unfortunate creatures were placed into a horizontal position, pressed close together. Mostly they were chained together in this position that had to remain for 3 months until the end of the voyage. Rarely was there a captain who sympathized with them or evidenced any feelings whatever for these pitiful creatures. Occasionally they would be taken in groups to the deck for fresh air, shackled and iron. And right, these are the actually back up. These are the shekels. You know, this is the last page I left on page 9, man. And you can see on the right side of this book the pictures. You know, the shekels. You know, the different things to open our mouths, to, you know, to basically force feed us. You know, the shackles that, you know, that bound us. Different things of that nature. But yeah, these devils has a lot to pay for, man. You know. But let's get into the precepts. Let's get that Deuteronomy. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28:15. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Right, this is, you know, the curses that the Lord put upon our people because we rebelled against the law, statutes, and commandments. So what? The Lord had to punish us, you know? And this was we had broken that agreement. So the what? The Lord put the curses on us and we went into slavery, you know? And I read, a few curses just by reading the book. You know what? Our family, the family was separated. You can read about that in the curses, which I'm gonna get. Deuteronomy 28 and 68. We shall go to Egypt again with ships. But let's just jump into it. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28. I read 15 already. Let's get some more curses. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28 and 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Right, like I mentioned before, how the slavers, or the Edomite masters will ultimately what end up having sex with the young women, the young so-called Negro women, man. And it says and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. So the work, that Jacob will ultimately do, man, they will not, that hard work will basically be given to the master, man. They will not. How can I say it? Jacob will not be, rewarded for the work they had, that they did, man. It says, I'm gonna jump to verse 32. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall not be no might in thy hand. As I read that passage, man, it was tears, mourning, and sorrows when the family, would get split up. The father going to one plantation, the son going to another plantation, the daughter going to one plantation, and I mentioned what the wife being ravished by the master and going to another plantation, Verse 41, just to back up what I just read, it says, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Right, like I mentioned before, man. Ultimately what? The families were separated. The daughters went to one plantation, the son went to another plantation, And this is all, reading that book, going through all the curses, man. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28 and 49, it says, the Lord YAHAWAH shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Right. And this is Esau's MO, man, the eagle. You can see it on the Grecian, it was the symbol for Greece. It was the symbol for Rome. It was the symbol for what? It was the symbol for, what was that, Nazi Germany, if I'm not mistaken. It's the symbol for America today, It says, the Lord YAHAWAH shall bring a nation from against thee from far, right? Because ultimately, Esau came from the other side of the world, to come grab us and to ultimately send us over here to the Americas. It says, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. It says, a nation of fierce countenance which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young, man. And right, that's ultimately what happened, man. It don't matter on those slave ships if you were old, young, or a baby, man. Starting with these Amalekites, man, they don't have no care whatsoever, man. As I read in that Psalms, man, these are the bloody men that we're reading about, man. These Edomites, because we know that they were blessed with the sword, man. What's that? Genesis the 27th chapter and Revelations the 6th chapter, man. That great sword. Let's jump down a little bit more. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28. I think I'm missing one. I was wondering one I want to bring out. I'm going to read this one. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28 and 68. It says, the Lord YAHAWAH shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Right, and that's what ultimately end up happening, man. When Amalek, they had their names behind these slave ships, man. They, came to the west coast of Africa, join with these other heathens, as I read in what's that, Psalms, the 83rd chapter, man. For them to ultimately what? To bring us down, to bring us into captivity, what? To be sold over here to the Americas, you know? And Amalek got paid, got big money off of the transatlantic slave trade, man. That's why they're in, such a high level of power right now, man, because of the money they basically profited off of Jake. It says, I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. What? Our homeland. We're not going to see our homeland. Our homeland, what? It's the land of Israel, man. It says, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Right on those auction blocks. What they say, I have a big buck for, how much, basically the number or the price they will give, us on those auctioning blocks, man. You can see it in these different slave movies and things of that nature, But let's get one more. This part 1 of 3. I'm going to make this a 3-parter. This is the book of Ezekiel 35:1. It says, moreover, the word of the Lord YAHAWAH came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. Right, and that's what we're doing on the highways and byways, man. We're telling this devil to his face, man, that he's going to fuck down, man. Because what? As you can read about, what's that, Lamentations, the 4th chapter, man. I believe it's Lamentations 4, verse 21 and verse 22. It says, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee. I'm going to close out with that, man. It says, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord YAHAWAH, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord YAHAWAH, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, right? That is these devils, going back, towards Esau. If you want to go back even further, through the spirit of Cain, this devil, has always had a hatred for our people, man. These Edomites. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel, man. And these Edomites have shed a lot of our people's blood, man. Not even talking about the southern kingdom. We have the northern kingdom that these Edomites, kill a lot of, man. Of the children of Israel by the fourth of the sword, and their time of their calamity and the time that their iniquity had an end. It says, verse 6, Therefore, as I live, said the Lord YAHAWAH, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Right. All these devils, that shed our blood, we're going to shed their blood, man. Even the scriptures even talks about what? Render unto them double. And that's what we're going to see, man. These devils have a lot to pay for, man. They haven't paid for it yet. Because what? The Lord is basically stacking that judgment against them. They have a lot to pay for. But I want to get this last scripture before I close out. Because this is our last captivity. These small hats are getting exposed, man. That's Isaiah the 47th chapter. These Edomites are getting exposed. America as a whole is getting exposed, man. The information is coming out through these different books that Amalek financed the slave ship. They had their names back in these slave ships, man. This is the book of Lamentations 4:21. It says, Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, the so-called white man, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make and shall make thyself naked. Right, what is that cup, man? A cup of slavery, the cup of torment, the cup of captivity. Esau Edom is going to drink that cup, man. Because what? We had to drink that cup. We had to surely drink that cup, It says, verse 22, The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. All right, and that's happening right now, man. With these devils being exposed to a high degree. And what's going to happen after that? He's going to lose his kingdom. And what? He's going to go into captivity, pertaining to what? Isaiah the 14th chapter, man. He shall be our servants and handmaids. But I'm going to eat enough right there. That was part 1 of 3. I'm going to continue to dive more into this book. But Lord, I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to end up by giving all praise, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, SHAM, YAHAWASHI, double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that taught us the truth, and salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the globe. Lord, I hope this lesson was edifying. Till next time, Shalom and Kwam Yasharallah. Till next time.